24 minutes before 11 o'clock. I did the weather forecast on the phone weather thing that we participated in at WOCA, and I think it's the first time this year that I said 90s. It's been a rather cool beginning of the year, although there might have been some 90s back in March. I'm not really sure if I remember that right. Anyway, we're talking about the temperatures because the guys in the room help us out with that, especially in our homes and businesses. They are here from Climate Control Mechanical Services. Brandon Wood is here. He's been here before. Adam Ham is back, and by the way, you can see both of them on the very special WOCA video we made last week. In addition to the streaming video that we do all the time, they're on there right now. If you have a question about air conditioning, heating, air filtration, air ionization, do we ever talk about that? I don't know. The number here is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-9622. I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that we use climate control in the announcement of our phone number simply because climate control sponsors that phone number, makes it possible for you to participate in all of these shows. So good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning.
90-degree temperature this weekend, so it's starting to look more like air conditioner needs, right?
Absolutely.
It's here.
Coming.
Yeah, last couple of weeks, I guess, I really haven't needed an air conditioner. I was glad to have it, but you know,
it's when that humidity really
I think
gets
that's
up
it.
there.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is keeping that humidity down. 80 degrees isn't so bad when it's low humidity.
You know what's not good for me personally is when I don't have it on and I have a dog at home. And I don't know how many people think that's silly, but when you go home and the house is hot, you know, you feel bad. Oh, my goodness, I didn't mean to keep you in this sweltering house, you know. The dog says, yeah, I know.
You know, I've had many people, it's a life or death emergency to get to their house and fix the AC because of an animal, whether it be cat, dog, or...
sure.
And I can understand, you know, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, animals can take the heat. If we can, they can. But
just to see that little tongue wagging and you say, oh my goodness, I left you. Do you think they're overacting?
Well, I don't think they're overreacting. You know, probably depends on what kind of dog it is, too. A Siberian Husky in Florida is not a good mix.
No, exactly right. I think that my breed is called Spoiled. I think I have a Spoiled dog.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's dog.
Yeah, that's definitely my animals.
There you go. We've been talking about so many different things, and among in the video, by the way, one of the things that Robin and I said as we narrated it was, it's amazing how many things you realize you don't know about something you think you know a lot about until you start speaking to somebody who's an expert. And I was referring to you guys because that's exactly what happened. You know, I mean, what do I know about air conditioning? I thought I knew, but there's so much that we've learned from you guys. And I guess the air conditioning, your counterpart from 20 years ago, maybe did a half of what you do now. Am I right about it? It sounds like there's so much more out there.
There might be more options available as far as system types, but it's basically like the automobile. The automobile did the same thing today as it did 20 years ago. Just gets better gas mileage, air conditioning is more efficient. A lot of different options, you know, between the UV lights, the control of air conditioning, whether it be thermostats or, you know, now we've got Wi-Fi control with smartphones.
Right.
So basically the accessibility of it and the use of it and the knowledge of it, the cleanliness of the air in your home, it all comes into play. But you're right, a lot of people just aren't, you know, up to date on what can be done. When they need it on, they turn it on. When they need it off, they turn it off.
True.
That's about it.
Now, what about from your end, though? The diagnostic tools that you have at your disposal today must be different than they were 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. The gauges, like to check the refrigerant, they've gone from analog to digital gauges that are a little more accurate. I still like analog gauges. I actually just recently got a set of really nice digital gauges. But everything to testing components where they just didn't have the abilities to test a lot of the components the way we do today, other than it just failing completely. Now we're able to do tests to see potential failure. You know, part actually getting weak in the system.
Wow, that's amazing. And is that something that you can foresee even changing in the next 10 years? Do you ever foresee a system that literally can transmit the problem to you, or do we have something like that now?
It's coming.
It's coming.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, everything. I mean, I'm sort of new to this. I mean, a year and a half ago, I was in your shoes in terms of, you know, I didn't realize what what all was entailed in an AC unit. And
Yeah, right.
Just coming right out of school, in just the week and a half that I've been with climate control, I've seen so much, and the tools and stuff that are available to us today.
Yeah.
And it's coming to the point where eventually, I would imagine we're going to end up walking up to a system and kind of it telling us what's wrong with it. I mean, I was kind of taught the old school way, and coming on with Brandon, like he was saying with his digital gauges. I mean, it just amazed me. It just does all the calculations for you. It certainly makes our job a lot easier. So.
Oh wow! And help me understand what those calculations tell you.
They tell us certain parameters of the system. There's things like superheat, subcool, things that you personally as a homeowner would never
Don't even know what that means. Yeah.
Basically, the digital gauges get a more accurate reading. They take temperatures in increments of tenth of degrees, so we can see dead on. Whereas before, and which I still do, I still use my analog gauges. I still do the math in my head. There's formulas to be able to figure out what these potentials are for every system. Every system is designed different to where it needs to be within a set of parameters for the refrigerant charge in the system. Like I walked up to a call yesterday, the guy's like, well, just give it a shot of Freon. I said, well, we don't want to do that. And it turned out his system was actually overcharged, which can be detrimental to the system. Both low charge, you can overcharge the system, really takes the life out of the system. But as far as diagnostics go, it's coming. I mean, I definitely foresee in my career walking up to a system with a laptop and just plugging it right in and getting full diagnostics. The entire system log reports on what the system's been doing. And they already have that in huge commercial applications, huge hospitals and industrial equipment. It's just too expensive to bring down. It's kind of like automation when you're talking about the thermostats. They've had that for 20 years in hospitals where you're, all the air conditioning in one hospital is controlled from a central location. Whereas now it's available to the homeowner with the smart thermostats and things like that. Before the automation, it was just too expensive.
It looks like you have a phone call. Let's take that call. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling in reference to when you replace a unit. And I'm noticing more and more installers or air conditioning outfits are running the new lines up the side of the wall into the soffits and then through the attic and then down to the unit rather than use the original chase. Now, I would like to know why they don't use the original chase, because now you're looking at something that's ugly on the side of the building and they cover it up with sheet aluminum, white sheet aluminum, which doesn't do too much for the appearance other than you don't see the lines. I'm just wondering why is that taking place today? Now, I thought maybe this is something new that could come up, but yet I did see a couple of installations the other day where the new unit was put in, the new air handler and the new compressing unit, and the lines were used in the existing chase. So could you explain that to me? And maybe I'll hang up and listen better on the radio. But
sure.
I prefer to use the existing chase than to have this thing put up the side of the house. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
We also, even when we run new line sets, we prefer to use the existing chase. In some applications, we just can't. We have to go up and overhead, and I know it's not very aesthetically pleasing. The biggest reason we do that now is from the refrigerant change from R22 to R410A. They use a different lubricating oil for their compressors, and the oils do not mix. If there's any residual oil in the old line set and it gets into the new system, the oil will actually coagulate and destroy your new system. I have opened up systems where literally, he's familiar with refrigerant oil, but I don't know if he's ever seen the gel that comes out, and it's unmistakable, and you know exactly what happened. Refrigerant oil from an old system got mixed in with a new system. Copper in itself doesn't necessarily deteriorate. It is always a good idea to replace the line set, but by far the biggest reason they do that is to compensate for the changeover of refrigerants. It is good practice. Very, very rarely, unless there's just absolutely no way you can replace that line set, say in commercial applications where the line set stubs right out of the concrete and there's nothing to do, but that's why we do that.
That's good to have it explained too, because I would imagine because of the aesthetics, you get some resistance from some customers.
Exactly,
right?
it is, but it is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
The line set covers can be painted, but it is still a cover.
Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Say, it looks like we're getting into some serious air conditioning weather. What are your thoughts on when you're air conditioning to leave your fan running all the time? In the garage on the the converter or whatever you call it.
The air handler.
Air handler, yeah. Would that be beneficial to leave that on all the time, so it's running when the air conditioner itself is off, to move the air around? Would that help, or is it just kind of maybe a waste of thought or money?
I've found ceiling fans help.
Yeah.
It's really up to customer preference.
Yeah.
Probably 90% of my customers just leave it in the automatic mode.
Yeah.
I know my father himself, he swears on his ceiling fans, as do I.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of power consumption they use versus, how cool they keep the home.
Yeah.
Some people look at it as, well, hey, it's just moving the air around that's already in the home.
Yeah.
So it's really personal preference. They do have systems where, most new systems today will actually delay the fan motor, so when the condenser does shut off outside, the fan continues to run for an extra minute or two to get that residual heat or cold off the coil. That way you're not wasting any energy where that coldness is just sitting on the coil. Let's get it into the house even when the system's not running.
Right.
But any more than a minute or two, and you're basically just moving the air around in your home.
Yeah. I think basically my unit does that right now. It runs a couple minutes or so after the outside unit shuts down. And actually, what's happening is you're kind of like almost replacing your ceiling fan, because you get almost the same air movement unless you have your fan on high, which I don't. So I don't know. I just thought maybe it'd be more convenient, and maybe in the long run would make the air conditioner not work as hard.
I mean, it would. In a lot of aspects, I don't think it would certainly wouldn't save you any money by leaving the fan running all the time, because then you've got that motor running constantly, drawing power, rather than, they have very, very efficient DC variable speed blower motors now.
Yeah.
I had one customer, we had realized that there was just too many hot and cold spots in his home, and because the ductwork was just impossible, we had found that the best solution for him was just to leave his fan running all the time.
Yeah.
It was the cheapest solution for him, and it works great for him. So
yeah,
it really is just customer preference.
Preference, right? Yeah. On the Freon, other than leakage, what other way would you lose your Freon in your unit?
Somebody stealing it. That's really the only other way. That
really.
Yeah, leaks can come from anywhere, whether it's just a Schrader valve where I actually connect my gauges to it, to an actual leak in the evaporator coil or a rusted component.
Yeah.
But Freon, a lot of customers, this is something that's a good topic to bring up, because a lot of my customers think that Freon evaporates.
Okay.
Freon or Puron, the new refrigerant out, they will last the life of the system. Now, if you're coming out twice a year and you're putting gauges on your system, a little tiny bit is released. So maybe after 5 years, you might have to add a half a pound, if that.
Yeah.
But other than that, Freon should last the lifespan of the system.
Really? Yeah. If you do have a leak, can you visually see it because it looks like water dripping?
No. If you got water dripping out of your drain lines, it's probably a pool heat pump, and you've got a leak in the heat exchanger. But we have special leak detection tools that actually sniff out refrigerant. There's a few different ways you can actually find a leak.
Okay. So it's not really difficult to research down and find out where the problem is.
Sometimes it can be. Some leaks are, if it's a really, really small leak and you're only losing like 8 ounces a year, it just all depends. Some leaks, it won't even hold a charge for more than 10 minutes.
Has Freon changed quite a bit in the years?
Not quite a bit. It's been R22 for quite a bit of years, and now it's 410A. 410A has been out for about 10 years now.
Is that for environment reasons?
Exactly. The EPA stepped in and said no more refrigerants with chlorine in them, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
No problem.
Yeah, bye now.
You know, one of the things I want to share with you is kind of a exchange of information between two people who know nothing about air conditioning. Okay, so the air conditioner is at one end of the house, and that's where the bedroom is. And the complaint is, well, the discussion is, it's always colder in the bedroom than everywhere else in the house. And then the answer, again, from a what do you guys call HVAC? A non-HVAC trained guy? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what I learned. The explanation was because the air conditioner guy measures the temperature at the farthest vent. Is that accurate? I mean, is it always going to be colder, the closer you get to the air conditioning unit itself?
It can be. There's a lot of different variables in that one. That can be anything from ductwork to, are you getting the west sun in the evening in that room? And it's hot in that room. I grew up in a room that had the afternoon sun, and it was 80 degrees in that room. So when you're engineering a home, when you are doing load calculations, it's very important. They take all the windows, they take the actual location of the house, what exposure it actually faces, whether it's southern or northern exposure. So there's a lot of different variables in there, but the best thing you need to have done is have the ductwork checked out. I've had to move thermostats. Thermostats were just in a bad location from the get-go, and once we moved the thermostat, it was a lot better. But for the most part, it stays. If your system is designed correctly, it should be very balanced.
You know, I had a thermostat in the line of fire of the sunlight and put aluminum foil on that window, and it solved the problem because it was on all the time.
Yep.
The air conditioning was, and that was my little way of diagnosing a problem.
I had a customer. They called me and said their heat was just shutting off instantly. It would not stay on, and it was in the dead of winter. And I went out there, and as soon as I put my hand up to the thermostat, I see this wave of hot air come over my hand, and I look up, and there's a vent, a supply vent that needed to be facing the other direction. He was blasting the hot air.
God.
He had adjusted it. And the thermostat was in kind of a bad location anyway, but I said, did you adjust these vents? He said, yeah, I like the air blowing that way. And I said, well, unfortunately, that really messes with the thermostat. Because the thermostat was reading like 86 degrees, but the house was only 75.
And maybe I shared this with you before. I don't remember, but my mom's thermostat, it was something going on with that as well. And she's got like a thermostat up against a hollow wall, basically. And somehow the cold air, this was during the winter, was getting into that hollow. And so it was staying cold all the time. And this was during the winter when it was trying to heat it up. So it was like, wow, the house is so hot. Why is it so hot? I don't know.
Yeah,
and so
I've
I just got, that stuff
times.
you get for like $1? It's like this foaming stuff.
Spray foam?
Yeah. I got it at Walmart or something. And I went looking for somebody recommended it to me. I said, oh, how am I ever going to find this stuff? It was first thing I saw when I walked in the door. Maybe it was Lowe's. It was someplace. And I saw it first thing, bought that stuff, put it in there, it solved the problem. It was one of those amazing, wow, I can't believe I fixed that.
The new thermostats, the thermistors for them are on the outside of the thermostat. The older mercury stats, and even some of the older digital ones, that is, you're not the first person to have that problem.
Really?
The hole in the wall behind the thermostat, even when you take the thermostat off the wall, you can feel like a breeze coming through that wall.
Right.
Newer homes, it's not such a problem, but the older homes that didn't have insulation on the interior walls, that cold air would blast right onto the back of that thermostat and really affect the reading.
Just explain to me the what you are doing when you put that temperature. I guess it's a thermometer. Would you put it right into the vent, and you're checking it right after you do your job? And I've witnessed the guys at my place doing this. So, what does that actually tell you? That you got it working? It's working, right?
Yeah. Generally, one thing we do. It's a common thing we do on every maintenance calls. What we call a temperature split. Some people call it a delta T. Just all depends on what you were taught. Basically, we want to determine what the air temperature is going into your return vent, and then what the temperature is coming out of your supply.
Okay.
And we want to range somewhere between 16 to 19 degrees, 16 to 18 degrees. If it's too warm, then it's something that we need to investigate. If it's too cold,
right.
It's also something we need to investigate. If the if your evaporator coil is too cold and the air is going across it, we could have a issue where the the refrigerant in the coil is actually freezing up. So
Are we unreasonable sometimes in our expectations? In other words, if it's 110 outside, what's the best I can get my house down to?
All depends on the home.
So I could literally get it down to 70?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
It depends on the home. That's the thing.
Okay,
It's,
okay.
I've got some homes out there, especially in Ocala, where we've got some older homes. I've got customers that their home was built in the early 1900s, and you can see through their floors into the underneath the house in the crawl space. That house, you're probably not going to get down to
that
70
sounds
unless
bad.
you oversize the system extremely.
Yeah.
Or if you have a home that's like borderline the correct size, or a lot of times people enclose a room in their house like the back porch, but they never upsize the air conditioning. When that summer the real heat comes into play,
Right.
their system is running non-stop. But a new home with new windows, to a certain extent, I mean, we don't have to worry about, hopefully for a long time we won't have to worry about temperatures outside that are too great
Yeah, right.
to be able to condition our home. And if it does happen, then there'll be systems out there to compensate for that.
Huh. We're just about out of time. For those who are interested in either having, just my goodness, the whole spectrum of services that are available through Climate Control Mechanical Services, one of the ones that we didn't mention today that I think is really important is the maintenance agreement. I think
Absolutely.
that's a very good thing to have,
Yeah.
obviously. But whether you're getting a whole system put in or having the one you have fixed or maintained or a new contract with you guys to just do the maintenance agreement part of it, what's a good number? I guess it's all the same number. Right?
The office number is the best number, and that's 352-291-0185.
Okay, excellent.
And the website is climatecontrol4home.com.
This is May 15th. June is coming around, and that's the beginning of hurricane season. If I could just ask a real quick hurricane question: are there things we need to do if there's a hurricane on its way?
Things that should already be in place. Basically, the only thing you can do with your equipment, if you leave, shut it off. That's one less appliance running. If you do have to evacuate, you got bigger things to worry about than your house getting too hot if you have to evacuate for a hurricane. So just shut it off.
That's true, yeah.
The biggest thing is, a code in Florida is strapping down the hurricane pad. I'm from Naples, and the land of hurricanes down there. I had a customer call us out after a hurricane. He said his air conditioning didn't work. We went there, and his condenser was gone. It was in his bay.
Oh,
His house was so big, he didn't even realize. He didn't even go out there and look.
oh wow! In his bay.
It was ripped it right off the pad and flew into the bay. His line set was all twisted up. The
Oh,
copper
wow.
lines ripped the electrical right out. I have seen firsthand what hurricanes can do.
So we do basically, we don't cover it, we don't do anything. We just turn it off and get out of town.
Exactly. I would start covering the windows in your house before you worry about the air conditioning.
Yeah.
There's not really much you can do.
Okay, so I guess that'd be a topic maybe, I don't know, can we expand on that topic at all for another show?
Yeah,
maybe?
we definitely could.
Somehow, okay. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Adam, for coming in.
Yes, sir.
And Brandon, thank you for coming in, as always. And see you next week.
All right. I'll be here.
All right, we'll take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. At least 6 people are dead, 7 are missing, and dozens of homes have been reduced to splinters in the wake of a string of tornadoes that raked North Texas. The city of Granbury took the brunt of one storm's force. O.J. Simpson struggled in his shackles as he testified in a Las Vegas court hearing where he's requesting a new trial. He told the judge his lawyer never told him about a potential plea deal. Women are apparently ignoring the government's advice on mammograms. Despite the recommendation that most wait until 50 to get screened, a study finds 56...